Before the video starts, I want to let everybody know that what I'm showing you is 100% real. The images and videos were captured by a civilian researcher who's been studying this anomaly for maybe a decade. This is some pretty interesting stuff, and a lot of these plasmoid entities look like the UAP sightings that we've seen, just like the jellyfish, just like the orbs that split into two. And as you're watching this, I want you to ask yourself, why isn't NASA showing us these photos that are of this quality? Why are they giving us things that look like they've been taken by a potato? What you're seeing here is a real anomaly. These have been mistaken for the UFO and UAP sightings. Now don't get me wrong, I do still think that there are nuts and bolts craft that are flying around as well and that we've retrieved them. But you have to be aware that these exist too, and this is what they look like. The way I made this connection is actually interesting. While I was reading this research paper, I saw one of the quotes that the commander from the STS mission said. He said that the best way he can describe it is like a sheet of metal, but it's not rigid, like a cloth. And these are the exact descriptions that he's given. The researcher who has taken these images and videos, I'll be linking his page below, and I implore you to go and check it out yourself because it's beautiful, honestly. It's mesmerizing what you're seeing. And to think that this is just up in space all the time and in our atmosphere, this is mind-blowing, and these are 100% real, so just gotta remember that, okay? I know they look amazing and they look like these can't be real. Like when I first saw these, I blew them up. I was like, this guy's popping balloons up there and filming them as they fall down to the earth, right? But then doing some more research, I'm realizing that no, this is what they are. I won't get into it here. I'm going to do another video in the future about these just to get a little deeper. Like, could these be the same things that are copying our SAP programs, right? Like, that's a facet about this UAP thing. I don't know, but I'm learning, and I'm presenting it to you guys so that you can learn too. And that's all I got to say, really. I really hope you guys enjoy the video. Peace out. Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing amazing. I know in my last video I said that I'll be posting a video about the Ellora caves, but it seems like I just got caught up in doing some research on the plasma entities that, I mean, honestly, it's kind of blown my mind. So basically what I was going to do is I was going to take a bunch of data from the research paper that was released and run all of that in through the ChatGPT and just be like, hey, give me a quick summary on what this all means. As I was reading the summary, I realized, you know what, this doesn't really flow well. Like, it was hard to read and I couldn't really digest it. So I combed through it and I basically jotted down a bunch of information that I feel is key, and it's pretty substantial, and it's honestly paradigm shifting and mind blowing. Like, my world's changed from reading this paper, and I hope it does the same for you guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get into this, right? So, over 10 NASA space shuttle missions have observed plasma over 200 miles above the Earth. Varying in size, with some reaching kilometers in length, these plasmas exhibit behaviors reminiscent of multicellular organisms, such as acceleration, deceleration, and congregating, which possibly could indicate a form of pre-life. These self-illuminated entities are attracted to and possibly nourished by electromagnetic radiation. They display various shapes like cones, clouds, donuts, and spherical cylindrical forms, and have often been observed descending from the thermosphere into thunderstorms, or congregating near satellites displaying complex interactions. They have been documented since World War II and may partially be the cause for the Foo Fighter phenomena, being seen numerous times by pilots from the US, Japan, and Germany, and have been consistently observed since then by multiple astronauts. Plasmas represent a unique state of matter and likely contribute to many historical UFO and UAP sightings. Plasmas have been filmed swarming and congregating by the hundreds around satellites and outside the windows of NASA space shuttles. Some instances are the STS-75 mission, While filming these plasmas, a recorded, garbled conversation with NASA's Mission Control was reported that plasma was approaching the shuttle. NASA dismissed the sightings at first as just reflections, but the STS-75 commander disagreed, saying, "I'm looking out in front of the orbiter. There are 3 objects. The one down at the bottom is the one we initially saw. It started over window 8, then quickly moved toward the upper windows. We tracked it through windows 1, 2, 3, and 4, and now it's outside window 5. It's moving away, and then Mission Control changed the subject." Like, why would Mission Control change the subject like that? It seemed in every single one of these instances, it's always like Mission Control doesn't want to acknowledge their existence, will say that it's some sort of debris or space trash. It's unbelievable. Here's some more. STS-115 reported and filmed a similar encounter. The commander described them as translucent, flexible, not a solid, metallic but not made of metal, and giving off a glowing light. Before NASA's Mission Control changed the subject again. The STS-115 commander states, "The best way I can describe it is as some kind of reflective cloth, some type of metallic-looking cloth, a structure which is definitely not rigid. It's not a solid metal structure." Could you imagine being in space and seeing something like that? You know, like you have a set mission that you're going to do, and then all of a sudden you see hundreds of orbs just flying around you, like interacting with your space shuttle. Man, that would be crazy. And what's even wilder is like we've had accounts from astronauts that have said that they've encountered things in outer space, and yet nobody wants to talk about it or bring it up. And I'm so happy that finally we get these research papers that have came out about it. And they're very in-depth too. The flight crew of Apollo 11, as reported by Buzz Aldrin in a 1982 interview, saw outside the spacecraft. This is quoting from Buzz Aldrin. "Something out there that was close enough to be observed by the 3 of us. Mike got out the telescope. It was oval-shaped like a series of ellipses, but when you sharpened the focus, it had an L shape. That didn't tell us very much. The 3 of us were not going to blurt out, 'Hey Houston, we got something moving alongside us and we don't know what it is.' We couldn't do that because we knew the transmission would be heard all over the world. It was very big and coming closer, so we cautiously asked Houston about the final stage of the rocket, the SIVB, which had been jettisoned 2 days earlier. Apollo 11. Do you have any idea where the SIVB is with respect to us? Mission Control. Apollo 11, Houston. The S1VB is about 6,000 nautical miles from you now. Over. Scary. These detailed accounts underscore the credibility of UAP sightings by trained astronauts and military pilots, suggesting that these plasmas represent a real and reoccurring phenomena in space exploration. Nobel laureate Hans Alvin argued that electromagnetic plasmas permeate space throughout the universe and are formed by and can generate electromagnetic fields, which they are attracted to. These plasmas have lifelike properties, including cellular structure and cellular walls consisting of electric currents. Quoting Alvin, "In order to understand the phenomena of plasma, it is necessary to map not only the magnetic but also the electric field and currents of space, which is filled with a network of currents that transfer energy and momentum over large or very large distances." Unquote. So basically, he's describing a network in space that, scientists for the longest time have thought that it was, dark energy. And it seems like these plasmas are existing inside of that. I won't get too far ahead because it's going to get pretty wild here in a second. Alvin also proposed that the inner and outer layer of a plasma differ in positive versus negative charges. Radiation is generated between these boundaries, and this forms the plasma. However, these layers also consist of plasma, what Alvin referred to as ambiplasms. He states that ambiplasms may live for long periods of time, and that double layers act to repel plasma clouds of the opposite type, but will combine clouds of the same type such that plasmas may repel or attract to one another and exchange energy, a form of hunter-predator behavior. It has been well documented that plasmas are self-organizing and engage in complex behaviors similar to simple multicellular organisms. Wow. Tolstoy postulates that because of electromagnetic activity and the massive quantities of interplanetary and extragalactic space dust, space provides an ideal environment for the generation and nourishment of lifelike plasmas. Solar systems are permeated with dust, and over 5,200 tons fall to the Earth each year. Plasmas, especially under conditions of microgravity, interact with and incorporate dust, which becomes charged with electromagnetic energy, thereby inducing mutual attraction. This electrically and magnetically self-organizing dust and plasma plume, influenced by gravity, transmutes into plasma crystals that contain nucleotides and amino acids, which have the potential to behave like RNA or DNA. Quoting Tolstoy, these interacting complex structures exhibit thermodynamic and evolutionary features thought to be peculiar only to living matter, and exhibit all the necessary properties to qualify them as candidates for inorganic living matter that may exist in space. It has been proposed that these plasma-like cellular entities constitute an extraterrestrial form of life completely different from life as we know it. So yeah, that's what I've gotten so far, and I'll just give a quick summary of what all that was about. So basically, if we're going to start from the end, the plasma in space collects dust, which is rich in amino acids, right? So they pull all these amino acids together and they combine other plasmas together with them. Once they fall into Earth's gravity, they turn into something called a plasma crystal, which then condenses. And these being electromagnetically charged, they start shocking it, creating RNA or DNA, effectively Panspermia. So it's pretty interesting if you really think about this. Like, in space, there are these plasma entities out there that behave like amoebas or multicellular organisms that, you know, they seem to have a level of awareness where they will come into contact with anything charged of electromagnetic energy or magnetic fields, you know, similar to a white blood vessel inside of the body. It'll, you know, move to it. And, you know, as they do this in space, they start collecting more dust and more space matter, which is filled with all of the necessary building blocks of life, just as an asteroid or a comet is filled with amino acids, right? And it's been thought that comets basically fell to the Earth and deposited all of these amino acids, but it could actually be that this plasma organism, you know, these things have been seen, you know, over 200 miles above the Earth. Right. So they could be everywhere in outer space. We don't know. And yeah, so these things could just basically be collecting all of this space dust, all of this material, inorganic material, and then condensing as it falls into the gravity well of whatever planet it's by. And, you know, over time becomes a form of DNA and life. You know, let's say if it falls into the ocean and it's like this crystalline form that has its own properties and its own movement that's been electrically charged from the start. It may still operate the same, just under the ocean, right? Or in the water, or maybe even in the atmosphere, we don't know. And then over a long enough time, they'll start to, you know, multiply and become more and more complex. And like, could this be what Star Trek was referring to when they had that giant space creature that was just like alive in space, right? Like, imagine like a space whale. Like, these plasmas, they open the door to that being a possibility. And it's a really, really high probability that that's something, right? If these things are basically eating each other, you know, over time they could get more complex and then turn into some sort of organism. It really makes you wonder, like, and it boggles my mind, you know. And the other thing that really gets me is like, why are they just telling us this now, right? Like, they could have used this as a scapegoat this whole entire time. In this article, or in this report, they were talking about how these plasmas are attracted to nuclear energy, or, you know, nuclear waste or fallout from a bomb. They've been seen around Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You know, they are observed swarming nuclear facilities and scaring the security guards there. I actually just did some stories on it, right? Yeah, they've known about this for 30 years. Like, why wouldn't they have told us this beforehand, right? Instead of having us believe that there are like gray aliens coming here and observing our nuclear facilities, right? When this whole time they could have been like, well, actually, there are these plasma beings here. We've been doing experiments with them. We've dragged like a mile-long wire, and we've attracted them, and we know how they operate. Well, we know that they exist, and we have video and, you know, picture evidence of it. Like, why not tell us that? And I think the reason why they didn't tell us this is because of the implications of that. And the implications being that life did come onto Earth through space in a sense of panspermia. Instead of panspermia, it would be more of like a Pansporeia, right? Like, you just have this plethora of plasma, amino acid plasma enriched, you know, clouds that are falling from the sky into the planet, turning into crystals as they rain down on the planet, like little hubs of life that have the ability to just come into existence, and then over time become conscious, and then on a long enough time scale create a society, then create a computer, then do research on their origins, right, technically, or do research on some phenomena, and then finding out that that phenomena is actually what you came from, and then talking about that on a computer. So in reality, I am literally the universe right now talking about itself, right? Like, if, you know, billions of years of evolution, right? We come from these plasma plumes, and here we are. You know, isn't that amazing? Like, life is just so beautiful. And then another interesting facet about this is that all of this life incorporates sacred geometry, right? These key fundamental things that everything in the world is consisted of, everything in the universe, you know, from our cells when we're a baby to a spiral galaxy. All of these things incorporate this one single design. And that's just amazing, honestly. But I won't ramble on about that in this video. I just wanted to talk about the plasma life, and that's basically what I have right now. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a quick one, honestly, but that's cool. I'm glad I got the information out, and I need to start on that new video. I just have so much material written out on it. Like, never again will I, you know, be mad at a creator for not putting out consistent work. Like, it's a lot of work to just put out a bunch of content all the time, you know. You gotta like time manage, and then you gotta come up with ideas, and then if you're working, you know, 9 to 5, it's like, how are you gonna find time to do this when you have all these other things you want to do? Luckily for me, this is like a passion, so I'm literally like, I'm like squeezing this in, you know what I mean? It works, actually. It's a pretty good system that I have right now, and I'm pretty sure that in time I can tweak this and make it into something very, very not profitable, but not prominent. In a long enough time scale, I can make this very I can become very proficient at this, you know, getting better and attuning my craft, attuning my skills to just A, be able to create the content, and then B, figuring out, what's the best way for me to present this. Because at the same time as presenting this, I'm actually learning things. So I think that that's a really, really cool, you scratch my back, I scratch your back kind of symbiotic relationship I have with all of you, my viewers. And I thank you guys so much for watching, and please stay tuned for the next video. This is From Thought. Much love. Peace out.